get you on the radio. Yeah, you gotta get on the radio. If you gotta
get on the radio. Welcome back to Around the House with Eric G. This is where we talk home improvement. If you're listening to the podcast, this is hour number 2. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eric G.
I'm Dane Vodder.
All right. I want you to give us a call here. We got a couple calls lined up right now, but I want you to join us in the conversation here at 503-417-9595. That's 503-417-9595. Make sure you join us on Facebook, Around the House with Eric G. You can get me on Twitter, Instagram. Just keep looking at that Around the House with Eric G stuff. It's all the same. It's out there. A little bit different content, but Facebook is definitely where we lean to on that. One thing I wanted to note that we're going to be doing some recording here in the next few weeks as well. So I want you to call our text line or recording line as well. So you can call or text to this number. This is going to be our new 24/7 number. So any of you listen to the podcast out there, or if you're listening in another market where it's not running live, you can still get us to come on the show. And that's 503-521-7072.
We just want to bring in everybody, all of our podcast listeners. If they have any questions, we want to make sure we're available to you, and then we can also answer your questions and make you part of our show.
Yeah, exactly. So we want you to be part of this whole thing. And speaking of that, we do have Panasonic in the studio here. We've been talking venting, and Susanna in Portland has been patiently waiting to get on the radio. Welcome to Around the House.
Hi. I don't know exactly what to call this. I think it's a house fan. My dad has had one, and I saw the results of it. It was in California, and it's where he had a fan that was centrally located in his ceiling. And what he would do is the evening air, cooled off, he would open up windows and doors just a little bit, turn on this very powerful fan, and it would just suck in all the outside air that was cooler and blow out the attic. So then it cooled off the attic from being, say 140 40 degrees. But when I love this idea. My husband and I are not real fans of air conditioners. We like to just kind of go with the warm seasons. But when I have mentioned this to people, even professional people while in Oregon, they look at me funny and they kind of say yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about. What do you think about these? What do I call them? Where do I get it?
Here's the thing, and it's depending on what you've got. Was that just attic ventilation, or was that actually coming down into the house?
It was in the ceiling, and it was an air that a fan specifically to suck air. So by my dad opening the windows a little bit, it sucked out all the warm air in the house, brought in that cooler air from outside, but then because it was sucking it into the attic,
Gotcha.
Then it blew it out the attic. So that then your attic cooled off too, so your entire house cooled off too. Say if it was 75 degrees outside, now everything's 75 degrees inside.
Gotcha. Why don't you dive in on this one?
Yeah, those were commonly used in the warmer climates when air conditioning wasn't so popular or is available. So they were provided night cooling.
Yeah.
So you'd use the natural diurnal cycle of cool evenings to evacuate the heat from the house and eventually the attic in order to start the next day off in a cooler environment.
Yeah, they work great. Like I was in Palm Springs yesterday. That would be the place where you're out in the desert. You get a 50-degree temperature drop at night. I know that's extreme, but it gets really cool so you can turn it on and go. We don't have that kind of cooling here, which I guess is the problem.
Yeah, we don't need that kind of horsepower to evacuate the air out of our house for cooling in the Pacific Northwest. Even on the east side, there's enough delta between the cool nights and the days. Just opening windows or having a constantly running low flow fan is enough. Those big, huge fans drew a lot of energy, and they created a big hole in your ceiling. So in the 9 months of the year when we're in a heating mode, we're just wasting more heat out of that big hole, and we can't insulate over the top of those. And quite potentially, they're distributing a bunch of interior moisture into the attic area that can condense on the roof surface and create mold mildew.
Yeah, I was going to say, now you got a black mold issue potentially up there, where any kind of mold, but you could even get worse with black mold up there, and then you got a bigger, more expensive problem.
Okay, everything you guys just said is why when I mention it to people here, they look at me funny.
Yep.
Okay.
And
All right,
one thing I want to note that just be careful if you have somebody come up and do like an attic fan up there. You need to really, to do those right, you really need to seal the house up well. So I always recommend if someone's going to put in attic ventilation, that you do a lot of sealing between that ceiling and that, because you can create, again, if you don't design that out and do it correctly, you can be sucking air out of the house into the attic and causing some other problems with that as well. So just be very careful when you're dealing with ventilation, because you might try to do something that's going to help you and cause a bigger problem.
We like to ventilate the air from our house outside of the house, and that does not mean into the attic.
Okay,
So a duct connecting the fan to
Exterior air.
the exterior is very important, especially in this environment.
Okay. All right, I think you have me convinced.
All right. Susanna, thanks for calling. Thanks for listening
Thank
around
you
the
so
house.
much.
We really appreciate it.
Okay, all right, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Let's run out here to Ruben and Malala. Welcome to Around the House.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello.
What can I help you with today?
Okay, question for you. First-time homeowner, so I'm still kind of new at this. I have laminate flooring that goes up towards my kitchen sink and my dishwasher. As far as I can tell, nothing's leaking. There's no mold. There's no nothing. But I just find it odd that the laminate is starting to definitely distort. Not bubble, it's starting to buckle up a little bit.
Okay, so you've got
what are your
two
thoughts?
things happening. I would say most likely you've got a moisture issue there someplace. Now, what can happen is that you could have something leaking underneath your dishwasher where you're not going to see it out there. And if you've got, let's say it's the main shaft where the pump is leaking, that could be getting in there, and now it's going to cause it as it keeps going out there. It's going to travel under the bottom of that flooring and start buckling there. The only other thing that's probably another likely option would be if someone didn't install that flooring correctly and it's expanding and contracting, you've got a little buckling from that because they didn't leave a proper gap around the perimeter of that. But in front of your dishwasher, in front of the sink, man, that's screaming moisture problem.
That's what I was thinking, and also as far as things that were not improperly laid out or installed. I'm finding issues with it every month that I've owned it so far.
Ruben, I'd probably pop that dishwasher out and just see what you got beneath that. You don't have to take the flooring up just yet, but I'd probably uninstall that dishwasher, pull it out, and see what you got back there. You can even take the toe kick off it and kind of look around down there with a flashlight and see, and look under there where the lines are. If that dishwasher's failing, that's where it's going to do it.
All right, copy that. I know where to start now, so I got a week's worth of vacation coming up right now. So.
The honeydew list is getting good.
Hey, Ruben, you might want to check that crawl space too. Take a look in there, see if there's any standing water. There could be a bulk water intrusion issue to the crawl space, and that's evaporating and coming into your floor.
It's coming in through there. That could be it too, as well as if you got water coming up through there. You got a lot of intrusion points where that's coming up through the floor right there. So that's another one of those. So.
All right, time to get dirty. Thanks for your help, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, good luck out there. Thanks, Ruben. All right, when we come back, we're going to take Bruce in Salem. It looks like my buddy Bruce is calling in, as well as Richard in Portland. Hang tight. We'll be taking those, as well as your call at 503-417-9595, just as soon as Around the House returns.
You know it's true.
Welcome back to Around the House with Eric G. This is where we talk home improvement every Saturday afternoon. I'm Eric G.
I'm Dane Vaughter.
All right, this segment Around the House is brought to you by Dare Homes, building quality custom homes throughout the Pacific Northwest for nearly 50 years. Find a design center near you at darehomes.com, and they have that little tiny CCB number, which is 593. We have got the callers stacked up out here, so let's try to clear a few of them out.
Our buddy Bruce?
We got our buddy Bruce here. I think this is the former host of Mr. Barbecue.
Cooking Outdoors, Mr. Barbecue.
You got it, buddy.
The fastest, tastiest hour that was on radio.
Hey, buddy, what do you got going on?
Well, I'll tell you, guys, I'm doing having some remodeling done in both the kitchen and our master bathroom. We're almost done, but I've got a kitchen floor issue that's just driving me up the walls, and that is that they put down the first replacement vinyl floor, and we had some delamination of the subflooring due to some moisture issues.
Okay.
So we had some really bad squeaks and about a 5 square foot bubble. So this past Wednesday, they came in, they drilled down all across the old new vinyl floor and put vinyl on top of that. Well, my problem is now that I've got bubbles throughout the kitchen on that vinyl floor. So my question is this normal or not?
No, you shouldn't have any bubbles in that vinyl floor, because if they put that vinyl floor and then rolled it out, it should be good. There shouldn't be any bubbles in that. Now, it could be that you've got patch places that are raised up. It could be a bubble. But, yeah, once that glue dries on it, that bubble's pretty much there.
Okay. Now, I will tell you that some of the bubbles that were there Wednesday, Thursday, yesterday appear to have smoothed out, but they were very small. But I've still got some other major bubbles. Is there any way for the sub-crew installer to come back and eliminate the larger bubbles without having to totally replace the floor?
You know, that's a good question without knowing it. I would never recommend poking a hole through that vinyl, because then you just have another problem there. The only other thing you've got is that maybe that'll offcast down through the floor, but if it's not doing it now, it's probably not. And if you go try to roll it again, you're probably going to tear the floor up, because you're going to push the bubble into an area that has an area that's already glued down, and the glue has set since it's been long enough time. So I'd get your flooring guy out there to take a look at it, and time to have that ugly conversation of possibly floor number 3.
Right. I have talked to the contractor. I've known him for a lot of years, and very confident that he'll definitely take care of the issue. But having never had vinyl flooring or actually any remodeling done, you know, I'm a real newbie at this, and so I wanted to come to the guys that I know would know, and that's you guys.
Thanks, Bruce. But, yeah, good luck on that. Hey, call us back in when you guys get it figured out, if you guys, if it does. But I think you've got a high chance that that's not just going to fix itself.
Okay, well, these guys are going to, if we have to go to floor number 3, they're going to have to rip everything out down to the subfloor and start all over. So
bummer.
They'll be crying pretty hard if that has to happen.
Yep, no kidding. And that's just a little longer you getting back into that kitchen, man.
That's right. Yep.
All right. Hey, Bruce, thanks for calling in, man.
Appreciate it. Okay, take care.
See ya. Thanks. Let's run out here to Richard in Portland. Welcome to Around the House.
Hi. I have a question on a ventilation fan over in the kitchen over the range.
Okay.
It's a 30-inch fan that I need to put in, or 30-inch hood, I guess you'd call it. And they've got so many different cubic feet per minute, I guess it is, or something like that. And I mean, they range from 30 on up to 600. So, what is a range that a person should look at?
First off, what kind of range are we talking about? I mean, do you have just like an electric or a electric range, or are we talking a big, Viking,
No, it's regular, just a glass top electric range.
You know, my favorite, I like to move some CFM personally, but the problem is once you get over that 450 category of range, you get 400 plus, you're doing makeup air in your house. So that's kind of where you need to be. So if you want to make it easy on yourself, go get a nice 350 CFM, get a good fan. And again, when you're talking fans, what you get what you pay for with this stuff. If you go get the inexpensive one, it's going to be a rattly, noisy, not fun fan. If you get something you get what you pay for when it comes down to from the quietness of it, as well as how the screens and stuff work too. Okay. So don't skimp on that. That's a good place to do something good for yourself right there.
So another thing about range hood fans is you want to make sure they duct to the outside. There's a lot of range hood fans out there, like with the microwave over the range type applications that we call them forehead dusters, where they take the air out there and they just blow it across your forehead. Any good range or any range hood that you put in needs to exhaust to the outside.
Well, that's my next question. There was there's a pipe there, but the guy that remodeled the house says it's a lousy job. We didn't know if he just stuck a pipe in there and it really does go out, because we had a kind of a microwave oven above that with a fan in it, and it never really did suck up hardly anything. So my question is, how do I tell if that pipe goes all the way through, or exhaust in the attic? Or
well, first thing is that microwave doesn't work on a good day. I don't care what brand you have. They're not a great...
It's gone. It's gone now.
So what you're going to have to do is just take a look and see where that vent goes to. Look outside and see if that fan's working out there. Do you have it? Is it torn out right now and you're getting ready to put one up there? Or do you still have a vent hooked up in that space?
No, there's the microwave's gone, so there's nothing there right now. We just need to put a fan in there. So,
is there cold air being drawn into the house through the existing hole?
Never thought about looking at that.
Yep, that's a good way to go. And then take a look and see where that goes. I mean, it's either going to be going out to the back wall there, up to the roof someplace. So it's going to be going someplace. What you don't want is it going into your attic no matter what. So if that's the case, then get it going out either through the back wall, up through the roof, and get it outside. But don't ever let that get into the attic, because then you're just putting greasy, nasty, moist air in your attic, and that's going to be your own other problem. So,
all right. Great. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
All right, man. Thanks for calling in to Around the House. We appreciate it here. Let's see if we can run out here. Man, this is going to be quick. We're going to have to start this one and take it into the next break here. But Stephen in Portland, welcome to Around the House.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a little comment about the whole house fan. That's what you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
Those things can be very noisy. And also, in order for you to make them work at their best, you have to also open the doors to each one of your rooms, because if you don't, the air has to go under the doorway in order to make it to the centrally located duct that takes it on up. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you're actively pulling air in from outside, let's say you live close to Division or a major street, you're going to be pulling all of the impurities in the air, including exhaust and everything else, into your home. And that's different than just opening your windows. And finally, if you live in Portland and you're opening your windows at night, you may wake up with a homeless guy passed out.
Thanks, Stephen. We got to go to break. We'll take the rest of the calls just as soon as Around the House returns. Welcome back to Around the House with Eric G. This is where we talk home improvement. Doesn't matter if it's out in the front yard or the back, or in between the front door and the back door. We got it all ready to go for you right here. All right, this segment is brought to you by Adair Homes, building quality custom homes throughout the Pacific Northwest for nearly 50 years. Find a design center near you at adairhomes.com, and that is CCB number 593. We've been talking ventilation these last couple hours here. Let's run out to Jack in Rock Creek. Welcome to Around the House.
Thanks, Eric. Earlier you had a caller talking about moisture in the garage, and come springtime here, my garage, it starts to rain inside, regardless of whether the car's parked in there or not. And I'm not quite sure how to resolve this issue. I missed if there was a resolution when you were talking about Gal earlier, but nonetheless, I still have this raining problem. I did have a major contractor who has an environmental division come out and do an assessment, and I never heard back from them. So I started to pursue this on my own and put 3 vents in the garage roof at this point. Still have the problem, but not as bad as before. So anything you can add to my resolution there?
Yeah, definitely.
Where's the water at? Is it on the floor? Is it on the wall, a ceiling?
It looks like it evaporates and condenses onto the paper insulation in the garage. It's an insulated garage. No ceiling, just trusses with insulation between them on the angle.
Gotcha.
And you can see that they get soaked, and then it just drips down. I see these brown spots all over on the cars.
So
and also,
you're pretty sure it's coming from the attic space through the insulation down into the sheetrock, down into the car, down into the floor space?
No, I think it's coming from the crack in the floor. There is a crack in the floor, and I believe somehow it's...
So water's coming up and then evaporating and then moving up.
Yeah.
One of the key things that variables here is that the garage door faces due into the western sunset.
Okay.
And it is hot even in on the coolest days.
So let's step outside for a second. Outside, what's your water situation in the yard and stuff around there? Do you have a pretty marshy, where's the water coming? Like, so let's say, what's going on with your gutters? Are they dropping down right next to the ground right there? Do you have a pretty wet area, or what's happening on the exterior of that garage?
They're all piped out to the street, and
okay.
I just had the drains routed to make sure they were nice and clear and clean, and everything is A-okay with that. Nothing's puddling around the house or anything.
Okay.
I think what little moisture I get is just coming up, weeping through that crack in the floor, and then the heat of the sun on the garage door seems to be turning that thing into a terrarium.
Right.
Yep.
So I'll go back to my earlier statement too, when we talk about condensation versus moisture or humidity in the room, and that condensation's just looking for a cold surface. We can either heat the surface or evacuate the moisture in the air. So, my first simple strategy would be to put a condensation sensing fan in that garage and let it trigger when it triggers. That would be the least expensive. I mean, you can spend a lot of money trying to solve water problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But for now, I would start immediately and just get the water out of there. Because is it an attached garage?
Yes, it is.
So every time you open the door from the garage to the house, if there's mold and mildew in that garage, that house is going to take a deep breath and bring all that material into the house. And then you've got to deal with it in another way, right? Another fashion. So I would start with that. Just, and I'm a fan guy, right? And I have a lot of fans. So I have fans running in my garage 24/7. They just run. I blow them across the floor because my car brings in all that water and I want to keep my floor clean. But the reality is a continuous run fan, if it's just even at 30 CFM, can move 3 to 5 gallons of water a day in moisture vapor, right? So when we trigger that fan to come on, you can move a remarkable amount of water vapor out of that garage.
That's great. Yeah, I have been able to keep it under control to some extent. I air out the garage a lot. I do have fans in there that I do run. When I see this starting to happen, I have some big fans on the wall that I crank up. And
so the fans on the wall, though,
the trusses and everything.
The fans on the wall are just recirculating the air, correct? That's not extracting the air and evacuating it out of the garage.
Right. The only time it extracts it is when I get it. If I do it when I'm home and actually open the doors and let it blow out.
Sure, and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but bear in mind that a circulation fan simply moves air from one space to another. So they're going from the back side of the garage to the front side of the garage. Where running a fan, a ceiling fan or an exhaust fan out of there, and you can put them in the wall, you can put them anywhere you want. Just get the air out of the garage, from the garage to the outside.
And you might actually be technically adding a little more humidity. If you've got a closed up room and you've got a moist concrete surface, you might be increasing that because you're actually drying the floor out by moving that air across the concrete floor. You might actually be adding more humidity to the room by evaporating off the floor and putting it in a sealed space. So I think going to a fan, to me, would make more sense.
And ultimately, it's by far the least expensive. That's the kicker here. We need, I want you to do something that you can, A, affect change with, but B, it shouldn't kill you. I mean, you can spend a lot of money on ventilation and or strategies to manage water. But in this case, I would start with there because it's going to be the least expensive strategy.
Yeah.
Curious enough, it was exacerbated when I changed to a high-efficiency furnace in the garage. For our house. It's housed in the garage, but we had a 1982 clunker of a furnace that we finally replaced with a new Lennox super, califragilistic HVAC.
That old furnace was taking air from the garage and exhausting it out, and so you don't have that anymore, so you can replace that with a fan instead.
Yeah.
And still have an efficient heating system for your home.
So, you quit taking that air out of the garage and you're pulling it back in. So now you really cut down your ventilation because that was a natural ventilation to that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, great suggestion, guys. Thank you very much for your help. I'll call back and let you know what my results are as soon as summer hits.
Jack, please do. Thanks for listening around the house. Appreciate you calling in today.
Thank you.
Thanks. Another great ventilation question.
Absolutely.
Well, let's dive into another question before we go out to break here, because we were kind of talking about this before the floodgates on the calls came in. I always worry about with the moisture switches with people that open up their windows. There's so many people out there that springtime comes around. We've got high humidity. We got the rains coming in. They love the fresh air, but now they've got high humidity in their home, and then they've got a fan running that's trying to find low humidity, but it's pulling air in. What do you suggest? I've only run into this like once, so it's not a big situation, but...
And it's generally not even a problem, right? If there's moisture in the house, if there's water vapor in the house, evacuate it. All right. So if it comes through an open window, I trust you're not going to keep that window open all night or, for a week or 2 weeks at a time. Just let the fan run. If it's an efficient fan, and this is something that Panasonic really advocates, is that use an efficient fan.
Yeah.
I can literally run that fan full blast at about 10 watts of energy.
Jeez.
Right. I could run that all year full blast, and it would cost about $10 to run the fan. So let the fan run.
Minimal.
But it's insignificant or statistically not relevant. So let it run.
Yeah, that is awesome. I wanted to talk a little bit about, because we've talked a little bit on the show, but one of the biggest mistakes that people have, especially with older houses and remodeling, is that they've got a horrible connection of getting that air coming out of the fan to the exterior of the house. Sometimes they've got that really nasty vinyl dryer duct kind of stuff that's got holes in it that the mice and the squirrels have eaten up, or it's just venting out into the attic space, which is just, you are starting your mold growing farm in your attic when you do that.
Right. Duct obstruction is, it's funny, as fan guys, we probably deal with duct obstruction as problems more than we deal with the fan. I mean, the fan... And I've done this before with all sorts of scenarios where I just take the fan out of the can and plug it back in and it runs. It's dead quiet. But I put the fan in the can, and now the fan is pushing against some sort of duct obstruction. Mm-hmm. And that could be compressed duct, could be just a bad duct. And that's just not moving any air.
Exactly. We come back, I want to talk about the best ways to get that outside, whether you think it's through the soffit or through the roof, and we'll talk about that when we come back, because there's a lot of good things with this, and I think this is one of those gotcha moments for people out there that can really mess it up. It's easy to do. Let's talk about that when we come back, just as soon as Around the House returns.
Going to a show. On the byway, playing rock and roll, getting loud, getting stoned.
Welcome back to Around the House with Eric G. This is where we talk home improvement. Where has this show gone today?
It's always super quick when we have a guest in the studio, especially ones as knowledgeable as the ones we've had today.
This is great. Thanks, guys, for coming in. So let's talk a little bit about, I want to hit this before we get out, because we're going to run out of time here. But the big thing is, I think with fans, one of the biggest things is people think, oh, bigger is better, and what's square footage? And there's all this confusion on coming up with trying to just even get their mirrors defogged in the bathroom, not even getting into laundry, but just with that.
So there's been this long history where they would look at the bathroom size and they say, well, I've got X amount of cubic square feet, and I should have X amount of square foot of bathroom area, and then I should have that similar amount of cubic feet. So if I had 110 cubic feet, square feet of space in the bathroom, I'd have to have 110 CFM in the fan. And there's absolutely no basis in science that says that the size of the bathroom is relative to the fan size. What we're looking for is how much water can you aerosolize into the air, and how much of that we can get out. So if I have a standard 2.4 gallon, Energy Star shower head, it's a pretty easy. I can do an 80 CFM fan, which is one of the most commonly sold fans today.
Sure.
And I'll meet all those obligations. Now, the trick is I have to make sure I have a net airflow, which means that you can buy an 80, you can buy 100, you can buy a 300 CFM fan, but if you only have a net airflow of, say, 40 CFM, you're not going to do yourself any favors. So a net airflow of 65 CFM, you cannot fog the mirrors.
There you go.
I have a 70 or 50 gallon hot water tank at my house. I have a big bathroom and a little bathroom. I have net airflows of 75 CFM out of both bathrooms, and I can drain that shower on either one into those bathroom spaces and never fog the mirror. And what happens is that moisture is going to expand and always rise to the ceiling, where I'll have this 65 plus CFM hole in my ceiling, drawing all that out, and lo and behold, I cannot fog the mirror.
So, see, that's the great thing with that. And I mean, 10 years ago, I was selling heated mirrors all day long.
Right.
In bathrooms. That was the hot thing. Hey, you don't want that thing fogging up? It's great because I'll be honest, the fans I was using weren't great. They weren't moving a lot of air. They were noisy. I hated using them. And I was like, I can put a bigger one in, but it's nasty. And
one of the comments that we always make is a loud fan is probably not performing well.
Yeah.
Right? Fans should be, the airflow should be invisible. The quieter the fan, the better the fan. What we look at is the deeper the can will be the quieter the fan. The bigger the fan area, the bigger the wing I get, the slower I can slow that RPM down and move the same amount of air out. So it all works out. The long and short of it, though, is you got to get that moisture out of the bathroom. If you did a heated mirror, the problem with the heated mirrors was the moisture just moved to another space.
it was over on the toilet tank now.
On the toilet tank, or most likely along your floor moldings on your exterior wall.
Yeah.
And literally you could, we see a lot of these mold and moisture problems, and they have called jail bars.
Yeah.
The mold will come right down the 2x6s because that's the coldest spot.
So you guys, I always preach the Panasonic fan. You guys are in most of the major professional places out there. You're not a home center friendly place. Yeah, but if you guys are out there around the Pacific Northwest, going to your preferred professional place, a lot of them have the Panasonic fans. And I want to thank you guys for coming in today because it always is good to have you guys here in the studio. And we're going to have to do this again because there's a lot more subjects we're going to talk about. So thanks again, guys. Man, all right, this week, couple things. Next weekend, we're going to be broadcasting live from the Portland Home and Garden Show with Pyramid Heating and Cooling out there. So come out and visit us.
That's at the Portland Expo Center.
You got it. So do that, and then watch my Facebook Live stuff that'll be coming in all week long from KBiz. And I'm going to try to go visit these guys over there. We're going to talk a little bit more during the week because that way we can hit on some of these other subjects that we missed in the show today. And then I'll be talking about the other stuff for the midweek special. Tune it in on Wednesday, but that's all the time we got for this week. Our thanks to executive producer Dane Vodder for making the show sound great. John Eric, who ran the Communications Center, and Jeff Thomas keeping us on track, on air. Thanks, guys. Most of all, though, I want to thank you for listening. I want you to join us next week from noon to 2, where once again we talk about maintenance, repair, designing for remodeling, and renovation of your home. Until then, be sure you do what you love what you do. This is the Radio Northwest Network. I'm Eric G.
I'm Dane Vodder.
You've been listening to Around the House.
Around the House with Eric G. is produced by Alpha Media USA in association with Design by Eric G. LLC. All rights reserved, copyright 2019. We will be back next week. If you missed part of the show, check out the podcast and all the shows at AroundTheHouseOnline.com. Remember, measure with a micrometer, mark with chalk, and cut with an axe. Thanks for listening to Around the House.
We're all over the radio.